All right. We should be live and here to go. Hello, everyone. I'm Dankus Dad, and with me, I've got my good buddy Barlow. And today we're going to be commentating some universes. Barlow, how's it going?
Going good. Glad to be here and excited to get underway.
Yeah, so just a little background on what this series is supposed to be. I wanted to take some time on Monday nights to sort of do this commentary where myself, Barlow, and other players, sort of that top cut caliber, come onto the show and talk through some matches. There's a lot of content that can help you learn how to play universes and get started, but things that take you from being an enfranchised player and can help you sort of push your game and level up past that is just a little rare and I think a bit harder to find. And I'm hoping that this series is a resource for that and also might spark other creators to make similar content and, level us all up, get us to be better players, and get on into the scene. So, yeah, that's a bit about what we're doing. And for our first match here, we have DisasterDan and King Jazzy taking each other on. We got Uabami and Aaron. What do you think about these characters?
I get definitely not the most popular meta characters, right? So we have to take a little bit of a closer look. People might not be as familiar. I think I'll start with Uabami because I think that's a character most people have never even played against once. And I think when you look at a character like this, you have to realize their strengths, and Uabami has some strong ones. She
Yeah.
has a tutor, always good, and she cheats difficulty. Both things are incredibly powerful, and so I think the reason this character often doesn't see play is they have a just about the worst stat line you can have as a 6 or a 625. Um, and they are pretty vulnerable to just getting blitzed down by an aggro deck. But other than that, if this deck is doing its thing, it's incredibly potent.
Oh yeah, and I think before my time, Uabami was seeing a good bit of competitive play, if I am
Oh,
remembering
that might be
correctly.
before my time too. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but it's cool. I know she was got sort of reprinted back into standard after being a promo, so it's pretty neat that we still have another year of this character, I believe, with her being a girl power card now. So might be something that you can still try even after rotation, but you won't be able to try Uabami without Tasty Riff, which is the signature card that makes Dan's deck go around. So I've got it up here on the screen, but Tasty Riff might as well be the character card in this version of the deck. Uabami is always going to have this, and this card does it all. Helps you build, so great tempo, card advantage. Later in the game is going to help you actually tutor up more attacks that aren't Tasty Riff to help you get the job done and finish things off. And of course, since it is 3 damage, comes back from your discard to your hand with Uabami, gets played on less difficulty for a little bit of extra damage. It just does everything here, and I think it's probably the best 2 check in standard right now.
absolutely. That card is just fantastic. And something you'll notice about Dan's deck is we don't have a lot of 3 damage moves. We actually just have Stacy Rift and Mighty Blitz. But that actually works with Uabami, not against her, because her ability will stack if you continue to play non 3 damage moves and save up that discount to allow you to play a really long string. You don't waste those earlier enhances even if you don't play a 3 damage move immediately.
Right, and when that Tasty Riff is coming in on 1 difficulty for 6 damage, that can be pretty backbreaking, especially when it's the second one that you've seen in a turn. That can be pretty powerful. So,
Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
so you go right ahead.
I think the only real surprise for me is there's a lot of ally cards in here, so I'm a bit surprised to not see Hunter's Ally. But this is a combo deck, and slots are tight, so it makes sense.
For sure. And, Hadir is one of the new attacks that is getting a slot in here, and this one is very cool. Being able to
Ooh,
put cards
yeah.
back on top is nice, and one of our good local buddies, Mr. Josh Adkins, we've been testing a lot with this card, and, being able to restack an attack and then use Form Speed Draw to find it, just like this deck does with Horrifying Realization, is really slick and can be a way to just keep playing more and more of these tasty riffs over and over. So I like what Dan's cooking. And
Absolutely.
since this is my show, I get to soapbox a little bit. So there is a brief math lesson here. You guys can't escape unscathed. So you'll notice here that we have 7 9 0 difficulty foundations in this deck, and that this deck is running 65 cards in the main board. And when I play a Tasty Rift deck, one of the things that I always struggle with, maybe it's because I'm a bad player, is that I don't have my zero difficulty card in the yard when I go to play my first Tasty Rift and first enhance. So I did pull up the math before the show. So if you're watching on the stream, you can see this hypergeometric calculator I have pulled up. And if we assume that between our first turn checks and review, we get to see 6 cards, then there's about a 61% chance that we do have that zero difficulty card in the yard. So I'd say that Dan will be fine, but I know usually that when I'm building sort of a Tasty Rift deck, I do like to beef up that zero number a bit. But like you said, combo-centric deck, very focused on doing its specific thing, and those slots are tough, and instead it looks like we're giving them up for plenty of interaction down the line.
I think one thing, as you mentioned earlier, Hadir, this card I think is going to see prominent play until its rotation.
Oh, absolutely.
I think one thing that makes this card so good is it allows these combo craziness pop-off turns, but this card is just incredible when it's at its worst. It's a 4-low-5 on a 4-diff, fantastic stats. It's got a relevant keyword and ally, and then it's a breaker 2/2 high block. All of these things are incredibly good. It's a decent block trick if you just make your opponent check a bunch of 3s. Like, this card is incredible when it's not comboing and also combos.
Right. Yeah, it's very nice too when you can get that breaker, then like you said, stack the attack afterwards. And that really can put your opponent between a rock and a hard place if their deck doesn't have that form speed action to get out of it. But otherwise, we have vast strength there as a pretty cool way to just seal attacks. This is our better version of Filled with Doubt that we get on the life symbol. So pretty cool to see that here. Breaking the Cuffs is a pretty spicy one. I know we've seen that card in a few of your lists sometimes, but getting that extra speed and damage is really slick.
Yeah, and it looks like he's just trying to add the redundancy to the momentum trigger for Rejuvenating Smash. He really wants to make sure that gets momentum every time to combo with Hadir.
Definitely. All right, and I think that there's plenty more we could say, but we gotta give King Jazzy's deck a little bit of time to shine here. And this one is Aaron Yeager. We are going to be just hitting him with those good death cards, and I love a strategy like this. Just simple, clean, very straightforward, and efficient at what it's trying to do.
Yeah, these kind of decks are very they're the straightforward kind of aggro deck, but they do have a lot of tricks. I think the biggest one in this deck is going to be Loss of Consciousness. That card can a lot of times if you've played against a deck with this card in it, you'll find yourself sitting down and you're like, well, I think I live unless they hit Loss of Consciousness here, in which case I'm definitely dead. Mm-hmm. And those situations are plentiful, and having these cards that when they hit the discard pile, you get a bonus effect. And Aaron milling for his effects is kind of, I think, the centerpiece of this deck being more than just simple aggro.
Oh, definitely. And, you know, we've played in Ohio. We've seen Mirka. We've seen Combined Firepower. It's rabbit season. And I think that Barlow and I may have been Loss of Consciousness more than any other two-player pair you could find. So, yeah, this one's real. It's powerful for sure. I know another thing about this that I think interests me a lot is the main board forcing surrender. I know we've seen this a lot as sort of an equipment heist hedge, and it still can do that here, but it also has a few other nice little synergies. Just being able to kick our Trace Eyes, which I think is an attack we're going to see a lot in this deck after the Echo, is pretty nice to help Aaron String in the late game. And I like that little bit of potential. One thing I want to look out for is Chivalrous Charge. So this card is phenomenal if you've played it in the new sort of solo leveling experience bundle. It is just doing everything. Doing the +1 speed to your moves, -1 speed to theirs is great. And Barlow talked about cards at their worst. This is a 3-low for 7. That's a pretty great starting point. But it does produce a backup. And producing backups into a Tasty Rift deck is very scary, even when you do have DR. So I'm curious to see if Jazzy is going to end up just putting this in momentum or letting it hit the discard rather than shift it in whenever possible.
Yeah, is shift optional? Yes, it is. I just read. I wanted to make sure because that could actually be a liability, but thankfully it is optional, so you don't have to build that back up and guarantee a hit for the Tasty Rift. But yeah, like you said, I think even though we only have two copies of the Trace Eyes, remember Aaron tutors an attack when he transforms. So
Yes.
if we want to get those maximum value out of those specific attacks, we see a lot of two, threes, ofs, and that makes sense when we want to be able to tutor the attack we want when we need it.
Oh, absolutely. And, Jaw Titan's Bite, another great attack to tutor, and another attack that will tutor more copies of it. So if Aaron is going to be stringing out, Bite is a great way to do it. But it might not just be Aaron. I think the little elephant in the room that you might see here in this sideboard is Berthold Hoover Living Weapon. And even after the errata, this character can still go pretty hard, especially when the Tasty Riff board is going to be getting very, very wide. So you think we might see Bert in game two?
I think it's totally possible. Berthold is an incredibly powerful character. Ironically, kind of been put on the back foot with Unyielding Destruction being so prominent in the format. He can't blow up your whole board if you keep putting him to 4 foundations. Um, and so Dan's deck does not have that, and I think that might be why he's in the sideboard if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so since Unyielding is not in Dan's deck, I certainly think it's possible we see him come in.
Yes. And then I think just the last thing I want to touch on before we get into our match here is Dark Ward. I know if you have been playing competitively since Critical Role, you've seen this card an awful lot, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. It's just so flexible, and it just lines up really well here into Hadir, which we just spent all that time on earlier in Dan's deck. Just both ways, stopping the breaker or that stack can play out really well.
Yeah, it also notably hits down the response on Rejuvenating Smash after it enters the card pool, both on offense or defense, so can really limit the card draw of this Uobami deck.
Yes, 100%. So, I think here we've given the decks their fair share. We've done our homework, and I'm going to let the players know that they are free to get started with their match. And yeah, we'll be able to check out some gameplay. So let's swap this stream over here to Tabletop Simulator and have a look at what our players have going. So looks like we're going to start seeing some die rolls now, determine who goes first, and see some mulligans. All right, got a little high roll action, and it looks like Jazzy is going to be taking the play. So straightforward mulligan, but a bit of a greedy keep from Uobami. And wow, that's a lot of foundations. What are the odds?
Yeah, I think that this Keiko's 8 is going to be really important for Uobami here if Aaron gets a good build, and we'll see how good it is right here. Okay, doesn't get the amazing build, so Uobami going to be feeling pretty relieved about that, especially picking up the Breaker 2 block on the review.
Definitely.
I think you can afford a pretty greedy build here as Uobami as long as you make sure you get that Keiko's 8 in your stage.
Oh, definitely. And we see more than Dan does. And seeing on Jazzy's side both of those loss of consciousnesses and is really rough. Only 3 in the deck, and those cards are not the ones you want to have in your hand unless you're able to discard and start playing immediately. But another quick build, and this one looks pretty good. Aaron is just getting closer to that 9, and we see the count there probably for Colossus SWAT to make sure that we're going to guarantee it next turn.
It looks like we're getting pretty quickly into a mid game with comfortable stages. Who do you think that benefits in this matchup, Uobami or Aaron?
I think it favors Aaron if Uobami attacks here, and Uobami if Uobami builds. So
I definitely agree, but we'll see.
Well, it looks like Uobami's attacking, so I have already called my shot. But Dual Needle Lunge is awesome here. Going to clear out, notably on an enhanced fired effect, so these Dark Wards aren't going to do the trick. But yeah, we see Jazzy setting up actually to maybe go for that flip right now on this attack. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah, notably getting to 9 foundations and even 10 there with I believe 10 or 9. Maybe I miscounted.
It is 9, but we do see that Masho to stop the weapon clash, so that Uobami gets to just keep going and not have to worry about the flip. But now here's Rejuve, and that Dark Ward is here to stop it, just like you said. So no card draw, and this really puts the brakes on her sort of attempt to build out and get advantage.
Notably, to Uwabami's benefit, Aaron does not have a way to transform presently. I think if Aaron could transform and just start slapping 4 damage on moves here,
Oh, he can.
Uwabami might just die.
So,
Oh, he can?
that looks like a Colossus swat over there in the hand.
Oh, well. Ooh, well, we might be seeing a dead Uwabami here then. That is a very potent way to start this turn.
Yeah, so Jazzy's mulling it over, maybe going to consider starting with another attack. It's going to be the Chivalrous here. So this is going to be okay, but Syndicate target just lines up nicely, and might be playing a bit around Hadir here to make sure that this string doesn't start with a break or two.
Also, probably trying to bait out the Vast Strength if he's trying to land the Colossus swat this turn, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So there's the Syndicate. Pretty trivial block. We'll probably see the Keiko, and then another build maybe? Or are we just going in?
Yeah, tough to say. I don't dislike either angle here, but I think a build makes sense.
Yeah. And I think Jazzy agrees. We see Killing the Old Ways come down, and then gripping that big hand of cards.
Very interestingly, you can actually fail a block with loss of consciousness, I believe. Does it say during the enhanced step, or am I... Oh, it does say during the enhanced step. I'm just lying to you.
If you want to cheat and win, listen to Barlow, but probably don't do that one at your table at the regional.
Only do that with the... It's the Rappa one diff. That's the one you can do it with. This one you cannot.
Yeah, Lust for Battle is a messed up card. I'm a big fan. All right,
but so. I do like Jazzy taking the time to, instead of just building out his foundation, which is pretty potent in offense, hold a high block and keep himself protected from Tasty Rift.
Yeah, I mean, just giving the card the respect it deserves, and just being willing to take the damage, get that foundation flip, and block the one you need to. Right, so at this stage of the game, Dan has no problem getting his 0 in there. But now this riff is going to put the pressure on. We know the loss of consciousness is going to come down to block this. Hits the check, no problem.
And checking well there means we've got a guaranteed block again if Dan wants to push, but Dan decides he doesn't, and just going to be happy getting his build out here with some more defensive tools.
Yeah, and a second Vast Strength can be pretty huge here. That one is costly, too expensive. Sometimes you check the 2. And
sometimes you check the 2.
Yeah. One thing that is pretty silly in this situation is there's no mid block. So I don't think that is going to be a problem, but you only have one of each zone, so I think if Jazzy decides to overload high, that could potentially present some issues.
Yeah, notably here, we are at 9 foundations for Jazzy, regardless of whether Uwabami could dip to 8 if she really felt like it, but Jazzy's at 9 here, even if something gets sealed, so he is able to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
With the transformation.
Yep. And Killing the Old Ways will end up just trading with Surprising Skill, which, I think is a pretty good exchange for Dan, but it has to be done at some point. So now that first bar is coming in, and it's going to be very huge.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this turn develops as it goes. These first blocks are going to be comfortable for Dan, but it's going to get very scary very quickly, especially with a health pool of only 21.
Well, the Irwin's Final Charge that just got picked up, that one, that one's going to do some damage. We got the nice Frightening Calm combo there to get the Ruin and then the Stun 1. And we see Dan is on the ball here, getting those foundations committed to make sure that he is playing around that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jazzy picked this Irwin's Final Charge up just to scare Dan into not playing his Vast Strengths early.
Definitely.
And keeping a hold of those, making him keep a hold of those out of fear of the Irwin's Final Charge and getting a lot of value out of his other attacks here.
For sure. And also, we know that hand's full of gas. Moment of Normalcy is another card that he could be trying to get Dan to hold up a little awkwardly. So that's just another sort of tool to overload there. And here we get this nice Trace Eyes that is gonna come on in. We have that echo because we have so many ready foundations. So let's
Yeah,
have
it looks like we chose to cancel the Hadir response and not the Breaker 2 because we didn't want to check a 3. So that makes sense to me. Although it might have been slightly mathematically better to check the 3 and not get Breaker 2 and clear your card pool a little bit. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, you do get the math lessons here. So I agree with that point. Now, at the block.
but here comes the stun, and it's
big,
a lot.
Big block. Still gets to keep the defensive resources, but from what we can see, they're unlikely to matter much since Aaron is putting in so much damage just from face.
And I think we see the besiege or something. We could throw an attack here and just get some more stun down before we go in with the big attacks.
Yeah. So there's the besiege. Gets the 1 commit. And yeah, there's nothing to block with here, so that text isn't going to be super relevant.
Yeah, and again, here we're kind of seeing the weakness of Uabami only having the 25 HP pool. If we had a little over 30, we might be living here, but with the tiny HP pool, we're in so much trouble.
Yeah, and I think at this point it looks like Jazzy just kind of has it locked down. The checks look pretty makeable. Even double 3 is like the only situation where this can't work out. And yeah, we didn't see.
Yeah, double 3 will cost Jazzy the turn. So not no outs for Dan, but anything other than double 3 probably gets Jazzy there.
Yeah, I mean, I like going with the bite here, and I think just really forcing that Vast to come out. And
I think either 4-diff works. I think they both force the Vast. So I think we play the one that punishes him more if he doesn't. Yep. And that makes sense.
And we see it there. And this should just be game, though. I don't think there is any way to stop what's coming now.
Any 2 checks in 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 2 check. I don't think there's any in Jazzy's deck. So
yeah, maybe Dan can slide a Tasty Riff in there, but I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're just going to see this hit for 8. And then any attack come down and finish the job. So really great showing from Aaron. Of course, going first is pretty good in Universus. That's some top table advice you can get only here. But
and I think, yeah,
really well played line from Jazzy though, and I think that was rock solid.
And I think this kind of illustrates that I think Uabami is going to be the one under a time limit this match. She doesn't have the defense to outlast Aaron forever, and so she kind of has to combo at a certain point because transformed Aaron will just kill Dan. So you got to combo before he can get there.
Yeah, but going first now, we see some sideboarding. I know we saw some Fortitude of the Armored Titan in the sideboard for Uabami. Maybe those come in here since this Aaron deck is stringing so aggressively. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll have to take a peek here, or at least with my vision.
Yeah, I know we also have Fate Shield to flip the tray size.
Yeah,
so, as well as the Chivalrous Charge. So that's a nice application too.
Yeah, so we do have the Fortitudes, and then Doing What Must Be Done coming in, which I think is a pretty interesting So these are some pretty nice ones on Dan's part. On the other side here, I guess we'll just see for Jazzy. Apologies for being a little slow here to the draw. But yeah, I like this sideboard on Dan's side for Uabami. I think sealing the foundations is particularly nasty if the Frightening Calm gets taken away. So
yeah, absolutely.
Just being able to stop Aaron from getting that stun and then getting that ruin. So, that it's just such nice insurance if you are in Jazzy's shoes to take away that sort of crackback potential with the ruin. And
looking at Jazzy's sideboard, I expect just the Dark Ward to come in here. He's got an extra copy of that, and it makes a lot of sense in the matchup.
Definitely. All right, so looks like another pretty good start. I think that Dan made a pretty decent decision to mulligan there, but gets punished. Keeping 3 foundations on the play is always tempting, but I think going for high impact cards makes a lot of sense, especially when you're down a game, and sometimes luck just isn't on your side.
Yeah, he had what I would call a pretty do nothing 3 build, nothing super spectacular, and those can be good in matchups where you're really favored, and so you just want to put some foundations in your stage. But Dan, I think rightly realizing he needed a better hand to compete here, and just got unlucky.
Yeah, and well, fortunately for Dan, looks like Jazzy's not having the best luck either. And oh my, no Dark Ward on the other side though means that this can work.
Yeah, hands like these are often you're going to win or lose here probably on this turn. You don't really have much of a choice. You have to go in, and you better check fives.
Yep. All right. We see the little partial there. All
A
right.
nice little 1-2
Oh
combo.
no!
Oh no! Yeah, that's a heartbreaker.
Still gets the response though, and draws 2 foundations, so crisis averted potentially.
Yeah, clearing the card pool saved him there. His turn's not over. He's not definitely not out of it at this point, but definitely in a tough spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really like this decision to block from Jazzy. I think a lot of players greed their attacks in hand too much, but he had a pretty simple guaranteed block, and I don't mind giving up a battle aura here at all.
Definitely. That's not the attack that's going to matter here, at least not when you're at 5 foundations. Just continuing to build, get to 9, and then finding trace eyes at the end of the day is really going to get you there. So, patience is rewarded. Another bar is delivered by the deck. And now Jazzy seems to be in a really commanding position here after that 2-check.
Yeah, I expect he's not even trying to get this bar to hit. He's just trying to turn his attack into a foundation in hand, which he succeeded in doing, and a pretty good one of that in latent skill.
For sure. Just continuing to draw the cards, keep putting stuff out there, exhaust more resources on Dan's side. Just very smart. And then we get the Dark Ward there. Breaker dodged. And now we see some more of these foundations coming down. And I love this approach from Jazzy, though, building aggressively now. Knowing you have the 31 health, knowing there's only 5 on the other side. And yeah, we see that last build. Boom.
I wouldn't even be surprised to see on a 7 here, but he decides against it.
I'd be surprised. He got to his match there. And I like here, we see the classic sort of Keiko's or Foundation Rejuve play. And unfortunately for Dan, the checks have just not been going his way.
And even the Dark Ward here now, so it doesn't get the draw. This is a definitely some rough beats this game. Not much you can do when the deck doesn't cooperate.
For sure. But, I think that Dan is doing what needs to be done. And I like sort of, still playing the out. Like, I know a lot of times it's naturally very easy to sort of fall into that tilt trap. And in this case, just being able to do what you can, making the best use of the cards in your hand. Sometimes you do find that out. Eventually, the bad luck can catch up with your opponent. It's not impossible. And, Tasty Riff here. If Dan checks a 5 or 6 and gets that other builds those surprising skills, we still have a game on our hands.
Yeah, like this is just Dan was so close to be like he took in a mulligan that was pretty aggressive, and he got unlucky with that. And then even then, his hand was if he checked 3 or 4 5s on turn 2, he would have been in a super commanding position. So definitely playing to his outs very well.
Yes, absolutely. And, going first helps. It can solve a lot of problems. But, yeah, and even with this Tasty Riff not connecting, it did the job of, keeping Foundation neutral. And here, I'm loving this idea of playing on the 5, just continuing to do what you got to do. And, yeah, big respect to that. Looks like a tough string, but at the end of the day, Uwabami now has a stage.
Ooh,
Keiko's 8 is there. And that's a
great hand. Misses.
Yeah. And like you see here, now this game just got very winnable very quickly. And all
exactly. And I love that Dan went ahead and built so many foundations and said, "Yeah, I probably am in a tough spot if you draw well, but if you draw dead, like Jazzy did, I'm now in a very good spot."
Yeah. And Tasty Riff still is on that tough number of 0 applause counters. But over on that other side, there's only 2 high blocks. And we know for sure that there can be at least one more Tasty Riff coming over that way. So Jazzy's going to need all of it. those removed. There's that difficulty modifier and +1 damage. I'm going to seal Dark Wards to make sure we get our card draw. Very smart.
Yeah, and we'll see how far this turn goes. I think this turn could in very. I think Dan has a lot of control over how far he pushes this turn.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. If I'm Dan and I don't see these fighting for control come in off of this, I think that I'm like good to think about pushing for lethal if I see one more attack.
We do see the fighting for control come down though. It makes a lot of sense. And now,
yeah.
What is the wording on Rejuve Smash?
Second
okay, it
card
doesn't matter. We
played.
go ahead and pass.
And,
We go ahead and pass it anyway. So
yeah, Universus has some goofy rules for those.
yeah.
And I will let you know that if this one were to fail, the next Rejuve Smash would not count and be able to proc that response. So very heads up on Dan's part to pay anyways and pass, because this was his only shot at getting that card draw. And once again, didn't quite work out. Wasn't exactly the set of cards one would hope for, but still the right play to keep going into that situation where you can find that winning line.
Yeah, and we're in a pretty solid spot here after Jazzy misses. Getting our hand completely refueled, tons of defensive options you see there. Now we've got a second copy, so we can target seal 2 things every turn, as well as a couple copies of Astring.
Yeah, and this Tasty Riff will come in and just pass. Bang, bang.
But Jazzy's been really good about holding these high blocks all match, not getting too greedy with his foundation builds, just holding these high blocks and saying, I know what your deck is trying to do, and I will block your Tasty Riff.
Yeah, but even if you block it, those zeros are still getting built. They're still pretty high impact in this matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. We see the block. Another 3. Just such a shame, because if Dan did have those tools to extend, and it just can't, it won't stop.
Yeah, this is definitely tough. I think, yeah, he's going to go ahead and pass it.
Yeah.
But
commit the Obami makes sense. Steadfast Resolve, really good here. And tough not to go into the next turn with a Vast Strength, but still a winnable position. Counting to 25 is not for granted. And with that hand, I don't think that Jazzy is going to be able to get there all that easily. We're going to have to see some magic come out of that discard pile from Aaron.
Yeah, I would... I think Jazzy can bluff a kill turn maybe, but with the Keiko's aids, it's pretty hard to get Dan to not block, because Dan is rewarded for blocking early here. Mm-hmm. So we might see him just like chuck a Besiege or a Chivalrous Charge to get that back up, but other than that, I don't think we're going to be seeing a kill here from Jazzy.
Yeah, I mean, we know that. Well, this is actually pretty interesting. Because do you think that it makes sense for Jazzy not to flip on this first attack?
Let me make sure I'm know exactly what Aaron does. Add 1 attack for your discard pile of your hand. If this attack is not blocked, you're up. He doesn't have a choice. This one is not one of the maze.
Well, he can just not play the ability. I know.
I got you. I don't think so. But if you didn't have the attack you wanted in your discard, maybe I think that's a reason to.
Yeah, and like part of that would be to see, because if I'm now that the flip has happened, if I'm in Dan's shoes, I'm definitely going double Keikos for sure, right?
100%.
Yeah, so we see that little partial block, Keiko.
But now that you've gotten double Keikos, you're free to back off if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you're just sort of, once again, sort of leaving it to chance, because you got to play those attacks. You probably have to block with those attacks. Woo. So check.
On an 8, checks a 3.
Yeah. So going to be a difficult one. We are going to get that deadlock.
Oh, do we get minus difficulty from Aaron? It looks like we did not end up committing that many.
Yeah, I think there's still some counting going on. I think there maybe only been 1 Keiko accounted for, but I think we're all squared away now. Get that deadlock blitz for that 4 extra damage. And this besiege is going to be coming in hot. 4 more. We got the vast strength to block it. So
Yeah, we do have the block from Dan, but very sadly, we do not get to keep our response up on rejuvenating smashes. We have now played a second card, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows with that block coming through.
for sure. I know we will probably see this steadfast resolve maybe coming in now that we're going to see these bites come over. How many bites do we have in this discard pile right now? There are only 3 in the deck, and we see both. So Jazzy's going to have access to 2 more of these.
Notably, we have Moment of Normalcy. So one of these is dealing 4-ish, unless we get into weird games of chicken.
Deadlock stun, though. That's pretty relevant.
Deadlock stun is going to be huge here.
Yeah.
Deadlock not been a super relevant keyword in recent history, but 2 deadlock attacks back to back with more on the way is going to come up. But it does allow us to ready our vast strength as.
Yeah, that's huge. Definitely. That one is tough. Like, if you're in Jazzy's shoes, it's so tempting to push the button, but maybe you don't want to play that deadlock to give those surprising skills the chance to do their thing, because now it's very difficult. Oh, but we got the seal anyway.
But we have the trick. Botan's coaching coming through, and it draws another attack. I think this might be the curtain call unless Jazzy checks pretty bad.
Well, we will see. I feel like maybe if karma is fair, we might see that bad check come through. Well, for Dan.
For Dan, because karma is not fair. Dan, the universe is against him.
Well, he's still okay, but now this last deadlock stun, I think, is really going to put the screws to Uwabami's defense, and that 5 check, I think, will lock it up.
Yeah, that means the chivalrous charge is guaranteed to connect. The stun's going to come through and turn off Moment of Normalcy. And then even if you fail, I guess there's maybe weird worlds as Dan where you fail a block in top deck in action. So that chivalrous charge is not, or chivalrous charge top decks you in action. But other than that, I don't think there's a way out.
Yeah, and that'll do it.
And that'll be the game.
Yeah, so really tough match, but I do think that both players played this very well. And, a lot of the time here, like when we do these shows, I'm going to expect to be talking about macro game plan a lot and looking to evaluate where our players are going with that. And I think that in both cases, Dan and Jazzy played the hands they were dealt very, very well. So let's get them on, have their thoughts about that. And yeah, soon we'll be calling it a first show, but this has been super fun.
Yeah.
All right. Hello to both of you. Good games.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of
my hand game too was awful.
Yeah, the hand was not the only thing. You had some real forces of nature going against you there, but you played your seat very well. And for a tough game, like I think that you really made the most of it.
Yeah, we were chatting about how like that turn 2 where you check the 2. If you just check 3 or 4 5s, that's probably a very, very different game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But and Jazzy, you too. Like I think that it was really impressive, especially for a first night out of this. I think both of you guys had really strong macro plans, and just the interaction was awesome. Like that little Botan's coaching trick after those surprising skills, that was very slick. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, so going into the matchup, once you got a chance to sort of look over the deck list, are there any tech choices that you felt like really paid off here? Or any that sort of going the other way you then felt like may not have been as generally applicable as you might have thought?
Fast strength is really only good when he's below 9 foundations because it stops Colossus Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, fast strength
which I had by the way, and I was I really wanted to play it.
Yeah, I had to. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm just gonna delete the deck. And the life doesn't really have a lot of options to stop Dark Ward.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the best one.
Yeah, I mean you have incredible display in theory, but committing and a momentum is just so expensive.
Yeah, and like you usually this is very momentum starved, and usually the thing they're stopping is the thing start using your momentum.
Mm-hmm. And we saw when you had the sort of Hadir line how good that momentum can be, and it's just very obvious that the ways the deck wants to spend that momentum are very hungry for it, like you said.
Yeah. The option game too was I wanted to see. Well, I wanted to try to kill him with Mighty Blitz because Mighty Blitz can do 19,
Mm-hmm.
but I needed to survive another turn before I could do that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think especially when you're going second as a 25 health character against Aaron, you just do not have very much time. And like Trace Eyes especially just really stacks on that damage so fast.
Well, like I dealt with the Trace Eyes. I full blocked it and stacked it on his deck, so he didn't get to use it twice. But the issue is I mean, six attacks, six attacks. There's not much else to say about it.
Yep, I mean that's very fair. So on the other side of things, I know both of you guys sort of have tried these out, and we had acknowledged on the show they're not necessarily the most meta picks right now, but there are certainly pieces of these decks that see a lot of play. Are these strategies that you guys are considering for Texas and maybe refining some more? Or are you sort of liking a different package of cards for that tournament?
This question's only applicable to Ryan because I do not have my invite.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I refined this deck. I took this deck to Buffalo and I bounced off Top Cut, finished with 10th, and since then I've refined it. So it's been pretty honed in. There's still, I would say that there's like 3 to 4 cards that I'm still trying to see that's worth it. Like the deck list overall wasn't necessarily tuned for specifically Wabami. It's very generalized for like an open match. That's why you have like the Harness on Deaths on the side, the Berthold on the side. The Berthold on the side is primarily for like Deku. It's an auto win versus Deku. It just puts the pressure on them to kill me with 10 foundations or I'm gonna blow up the board. Also, like Aaron, it's really people don't know what this character does. You kind of have the advantage if you sit down and like, what does your character do? And then all of a sudden I flip and I'm starting to pile on 4 damage on everything.
Oh yeah.
It puts people on a clock from right from the gate. Most of my foundations are the goal of my foundations early is to build. The always cools the weapon clash is just to get the 9 as quickly as possible, and that's kind of where I go from there. And then being able to selectively pick up an attack. Just saying like, hey, I'm gonna pick up Jaw Titan's Bite, and I'll suddenly have access to 3 attacks plus whatever, or an Erwin's Final Charge that could do 20 plus if I needed to, depending on what my hand is and the string is. So it has a lot of options, and plus it's a soaker. It has 34 health.
Yeah.
It's just like, can you do 34 before I can do my thing?
Yeah, and I can say like in the past, at least locally, I've played a pretty similar aggro King Ghidorah list. And just that ability to pick up Final Charge or Bite is awesome. And I think your deck definitely does it in a cleaner way with Aaron's Flip, just a lot less resource intensive. And yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. This looks awesome. And then, Dan, I know you said you don't have your invite, but hypothetically, if you did, are there any sort of other sort of metagame adaptations you would want to make? Or are you pretty happy with it? Just sort of like the Tasty Riff, Hadir kind of package with dual needle lunge looks very, very good.
Yeah, so like it's before doing the stream thing, which I mean, TTS is gonna TTS. This has actually been testing very well. So like the whole idea is so her response, if I ever got to actually keep her active, says that at the end of my opponent's turn, I get to return the card back to my hand. So as long as I find Hadir and Taste Drift, I always have the combo.
Yeah, definitely.
And so because I can block with Hadir, and then at the end of their turn, just Hadir back to my hand, and then Taste Drift I can just add back whenever I want.
Oh yeah.
So the combo is always like consistently there once I see it. I mean, I knew coming in that aggro is turn 2 aggro is the worst matchup for this character. Realistically, I've built it to where like it's been fine. The issue is particularly this matchup is he's also stunning on my entire board while doing it.
Yeah, just
Like Devil Din isn't really doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that.
Frightening Calm is the best card in the whole deck.
Well,
Yeah.
also like I went to Deadlock because I had to because I kept checking bad. So I had to build to be able to block, and then you had Deadlocks on too. And then and then you had the lost conscience to seal the vast strength. But yeah, so it's like against other aggro matchups, it seems like it's fine because one, if they are committing anything, so Fighting Skill usually handles it because they're only doing like 1 or 2. But this deck was doing it like three or 4 times a turn, and that's just and everything's coming for like 13. So I don't know. I don't know if I would play this at Worlds if I was there. But I certainly think it's cool. Like I enjoy it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Barlow, do you have any questions for our guests before we call it a show?
I don't think I had anything additional, but I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming out. And it was a blast watching you and chatting with you. So I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for
No
coming
problem.
on.
Thank you.
And just a reminder to everyone else, if you're interested in playing or casting, fill out the Google form, join the Discord server. Links are in the stream description, or just reach out to me. Would be happy to have you on, and we want to get as many people as we can. But yeah, shorter stream the first week. We'll be back next week the same time. And thanks again. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.